Hello dudes, dudettes, duders, and everyone in between, and welcome to the brand new, if still austerely decorated, office. Today we'll be looking at how to get a caged up Blackmagic camera onto a DJI Ronin-S gimbal, making sure that it's balanced in the process. For this video we'll be using the BMPCC 6K, but most of these same principles apply to the 4K edition. Now, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera is an oddly shaped beast and not really designed for gimbals, so you're going to want to do a couple of things to get its weight down and keep the center of gravity as low as possible. The biggest weight on most prosumer cameras is the lens, so if you can go with a prime lens instead of a zoom, you're stacking the deck in your favor. The actual body of the BMPCC is fairly light. While this gives it a cheaper, more plasticky feel than something like the Red or even the 5D, this lightness does come in handy when mounting it to a stabilizer. Because of its lighter frame, though, it's common that you'll find BMPCCs with cages on them. I like the tilted cages because they are solid and have plenty of expansion options. I also like them because they hide an Allen key in the undercarriage for easy cage removal. Brilliant! Use the Allen key to take off the screw at the top and the screw and the plate at the bottom. The screw at the top is slightly shorter and the one at the bottom is slightly longer, and that's why the lower one's called Neville. If the cage isn't sliding off easily after removing those screws, double check that you've removed the HDMI and USB-C accessories. I forget this all the time. And with the screws and the accessories removed, the cage pops right off, super easy, and now you've got a much lighter, much easier to use Blackmagic. With the camera now naked as the day it was born, you're ready to load it onto the Ronin. When you purchase a Ronin, it comes with a Manfrotto-compatible quick release plate that is perfectly serviceable for cameras like the 5D, the GH5, or anything in the Alpha series. For the BMPCC though, it simply doesn't cut it. That's why you want to pick up one of these. It's a quick release plate that moves the camera over about an inch or so that you can balance it easier. I like to keep the quick release plate flush with the back of the camera, and you might want to get a little screwdriver like this to tighten and loosen this one because coins and keys just don't cut it. Tighten the screw and slide the camera into the gimbal cradle and lock it. We don't have to worry about fine-tuning the balance yet because we've still got storage media to worry about. Because the camera is a bit side-heavy, you might consider counterbalances for the gimbal, just to even out the weight distribution. Also, because the camera shoots up to 6K uncompressed RAW, you might want to consider an external storage solution, like an SSD. While you could put the SSD on top of the camera, this will raise the center of gravity up, and you always want to avoid that when working with stabilizers like a gimbal or a Steadicam. Well, wouldn't it be nice if there were a solution that addressed these two concerns at the same time? I'm happy to say that there is. I use a small metal clamp to hold an SSD to the side of the gimbal. This serves as a counterbalance and as a memory solution all in one punch. The trick of this is to be careful not to bump the USB cable while filming. If you use the correct length of cable, it will be contained within the floating area of the gimbal and shouldn't be a problem. You just want the cable to be long enough that it doesn't tug on the camera and short enough that it doesn't touch any of the gimbal's moving parts. The DJI Ronin-S has 4 knuckles and this one slide lock for the quick release plate. When I'm working with the knuckles, I like to start at the camera and work my way down the arm towards the base plate. So that means I start with this side to side, and the side to side on the Blackmagic is easy. You just get it as close to that motor as you can. You'll see that it locks before it hits the arm, so you're fine there, and I just lock it off. And that one can be found right here. So keep that one tight. All right, next thing I like to do is get the camera up to the same level as this motor so that as it tilts up and down, it's tilting from the sensor plate. So that looks pretty good. That'll work fine for now. So that's knuckle number 2. Knuckle number 3 is over here, and this is the left to right on this. And you see if we go too far left, it's immediately hanging that way. If we go too far right, then it starts to get heavy a little bit in that direction. But we're not ready to get into all of that quite yet. We've done the simple stuff that doesn't change no matter what's going on the arms. What I mean by that is the height and the left to right on this lens isn't going to change, so we can lock these off before we get into balancing the rest of it. Next thing I'm going to do is grab my little tiny C-clamp and our SSD drive. I put the C-clamp on this way with as much coming off the right as possible because you want all your counterbalance headed in that direction away from this side of the camera. So I put the clamp there, and I also put the drive on that side of the arm, and then I lock them in place. You don't have to be crazy, just get it snug. It's not going anywhere. You don't want to crush your Samsung T5 now, do you? Next thing you do is get your USB-C to USB-C, drop it in, and on this side we just plug it in and kind of get it a little bit comfortable so it's not really pulling on the camera. Now we can start to do our left to right balance. Oops, looks like we need to move this camera forward a fair bit. So we're going to get that stable, and let's move that forward right about there so that it doesn't lean forward or backwards. Okay, good enough for government work. Now let's get that left to right going. And that looks good enough for me. And the last thing you want to do is adjust your front to back so that the camera is above the gimbal. Looking good. Make sure you've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 tight knuckles before you let this thing go, and then power it up. Perfect. I do like to keep a Ronin to BMPCC power adapter on hand for filming. Blackmagics are absolute battery vampires, so I try to run off of internal batteries. Bring your wasabis for as long as I can to save the gimbal battery for all the gimbaling it needs to do. If you're powering the camera independently from the gimbal, you can get about a full day of gimbal use out of one charge. If you're using the gimbal to power the Blackmagic, expect 1 reliable hour tops. And there you go, you should be ready to shoot. If you liked the video, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and go ahead and strip down to your skivvies and run up and down the street screaming about this channel. If you don't like this video, what can I say except thank you for watching it to the end regardless. Until next time, please don't take any false wooden nickels. You know what? Let's do this. Hello dudes, dudettes, duders, and everyone in between, and welcome to the slightly less Spartanly decorated office.